Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Stream live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellison. I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation, and I'm joined this morning by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, president and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Tommy. How are you, man?
Doing well. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. It's great to be with you and our community this morning.
Yeah, it is great to be with our community and especially to be with you, Tommy. We are in the midst of an upgrade. Tommy has been saying for a long time, Eric, let's do some upgrades, man. And so we are coming to you in high definition Technicolor through our Canon camera. They're one of my clients as well. And we also got some new sound equipment that we're toying around with. We both sounded like Darth Vader at different times throughout the morning. But we don't necessarily need these headsets. We'd certainly love your feedback on whether we should keep them or ditch them. Also, we are working on an 800 number so we can have you all participate, not just simply in the chat, but also by giving us a call and talking to us.
Yeah, the podcasts are the wave of the future, I think, Eric. Obviously, we've been doing this for some time. There are other entities and celebrities out there that are sparking up. For example, LeBron James. He has a new podcast with JJ Redick, both NBA basketball players, that launched last week. And just 2 weeks prior to that launch, Savannah James, LeBron James' wife, had launched her podcast.
Okay, come on, Savannah.
So it's a great opportunity. It's a great platform. There's a lot of freedom. And so we want to stay ahead of the curve as well. And so, boosting up and upgrading our technology, making sure our sound, the video is where we want it, and you, the community, would like us to be. But at the end of the day, we're still having conversations.
Absolutely. Nothing changes that. And today we are going to dive into the topic that we were focused on last week, but never got to it because we had such an interesting conversation. Success found in unfamiliar places. But Tommy, why don't we start by just talking about your week, man? Anything special?
Yeah, not a lot this week, Eric. I took, I guess I was at work 2 or 3 times. When we were talking off air, and I felt the same thing. There were some times during this week that I just kind of threw my hands up, where my mental wellness told me, hey, take a break. We have been doing a lot of work early in the day, early in the week, and which gave me some flexibility afternoon, later in the week. And so I took advantage of those.
Right.
So partly, I was at work, and the other part is that this week, my son, Bryce Lewis, graduated from high school, Walnut Hills High School here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I'm very proud of Bryce. Getting through Walnut is a challenge. It is the #1 public school in the state of Ohio, rated by the top publications, et cetera. And so that was mentioned 2 or 3 times throughout the commencement that they are #1. And so with that status, there's academic rigor, and he was able to survive some of that rigor. And now he's transitioning, taking some time off in his internship before he goes over to North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro, North Carolina. And so we're happy about that. So my week was really, I started Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to go downhill for Thursday. I was going downhill just to say graduation and then ramp back up. And so now this guy is, we'll have to have him on the show shortly.
Absolutely.
Because we had him years ago.
Right.
He was young, 10 years.
He was super sharp then.
And so now to see the growth and development as he's going into the new chapter, I'm very, very proud of Bryce.
Right. And how tall is he now?
He's about 5'11".
Okay.
He's 5'11".
Okay.
He'll probably, he may have peaked already, 5'11", 6 feet. He's still a very thin guy,
Right.
lean and mean.
Right.
He's been working out a little bit, and actually he's not listening to the show, watching the show right now, but I'm going to gift him with a gym membership.
Okay.
Because I bought him a vehicle, and we've been able to do that. And so to get him healthy body, healthy mind, healthy spirit.
Right.
That's the motto.
Yeah. And this week was a lighter week for me as well. I was grateful for that. I was designing some new training for a client that we're working with, just working on training for union leadership. And so I was real grateful to be able to do that. I recorded an appreciation video for a CEO that's going to be stepping down. And, I said in the video that there are 3 words that I would use to describe the CEO, and they were integrity. I've never met anybody that worked so hard to be the same person behind closed doors, Tommy, that they are in front of closed doors, on the leadership stage, if you will. The second thing is that he has integrity. I mean, he really believes in collaborative leadership. He's not just teaching that, but he wants to be inclusive of all perspectives and humility and service to others. That's the word that's big for him. He says all the time. I mean, in every interview that I was ever in with him, or we were interviewing candidates for, we did a lot of executive search work for him. He would say to them, if service is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. And so just grateful for our friendship. He's not just a client, but a friend. So I look for that to continue on after this time. And, the other thing that I think is a great learning that Tommy and I embraced again, it's kind of like when you get an understanding, a principle, you have to keep going over and over again. We were playing golf this week. And all of a sudden, I said a statement. I was saying it out loud, probably to Tommy and Wendell, but I was also saying it to myself, that you cannot get to great if you're protecting average or mediocre. And so we were just saying before we started on the show today that we grew up in households that were competitive. And so you were always keeping score. I mean, if anything, cereal, how many of them can you eat that? Pancakes? Oh, man, I'm about to do you. I'm about to eat all the pancakes. That's why I don't even like pancakes as much today. My brother-in-law and I went to all you can eat pancakes. I'm outdoing. Yeah. I'm messed up today because of that pancake competition. So Tommy and I were out there saying that we're never going to get our short game shots, our flop shots, all these other shots down if you're literally trying to get a mediocre score today. You've got to let go of mediocre. And I want to say that to you. If you're going to get to your full potential, then you can't keep doing what you're good at right now. You've got to keep climbing and keep trying to get better in almost everything that you do in life, living life, being the person that you are on earth to be. All of those things we have to keep going.
Average effort, mediocre effort will result in average or less outcomes. You will not get more out of the effort that you put into something.
That's right.
And so in golf, and we use the analogy of golf often, when you're putting, Eric, you would remind me all the time for years, and I'm working through some things as well with my putting, but you can never make a putt unless the ball gets there.
Right. Okay.
Right. And so you have to put the effort in to get the ball rolling, to get the effort rolling, to at least get to, if not past the goal. Because if it's average or mediocre, your effort, then it will be short.
Right.
And you'll never achieve it. And so it resonated a lot with me, what you said, Eric. And I enjoy the mental game, the mental adjustments, and then translate those into physical adjustments. So I will share with our community, as Eric and I are talking back and forth here and talking with you, that we have our own goals and objectives. And one of those goals or those goals, many goals may be in our head.
Mm-hmm.
I want to lose weight. I want to save money. I want to buy a vehicle or buy a new home. Those are nice goals or dreams in our head. Then there has to be some assertive, intentional effort that is consistent. It can't be, I'm going to start to save money today, maybe $10, and stop for a year. You won't reach the goal that you want to save money. Yeah, sure, you save $10. Same with weight. I go to the gym today, I'm going to stop going to the gym after that. It's not, that's mediocre. So the outcome is going to be less than what you thought you would get. And so consistency, intentionality, and dream for the stars. Dream big.
That's right.
And work big.
That's right.
And when you achieve that bigness, right, it's like this is what I work for.
Right. Right. And so there are two other things in this lane that I want to kind of stick with. Number one is, I would say to you, community, be careful that you just don't start accepting the failures in life. I would say to you that it's been determined that I probably need to have 2 knee replacements. Just all the years of growing up playing basketball, concrete, blacktop basketball. Now I got a couple of knees that I'm gonna have to replace. But I'm not sure if my knees are as bad off as I'm operating as though they are. I would say to you that if you're not careful, I told Judy something that, she didn't fully embrace at first. I said, aging is a state of mind in many ways. A lot of times, if you're not careful, you will just allow yourself to fall into being older because you don't want to do what it takes to keep your body in shape. I'm reminded of Judy's always trying to get me to park close to the doors if we're going shopping. Like, what? I mean, let's get some exercise from, a little further parking space. But I got to that place where I'm now just, almost trying to park in a handicapped spot. I'm conceding ground. And so I've been thinking about it for a while because I got a bike right here behind me. Tommy just showed me this little white table behind me. That is a bike. On one good day, I really thought, man, at work, I'm going to put my work on that desk. I'll be pedaling away throughout the day, Tommy. That thing is in brand new condition right now. And so I got a bike at home too. And my knees had gotten so achy that I thought I couldn't really even ride the bike any further. And quietly, Tommy, I've been out of breath a lot of times, just going from here to there. And I'm literally mentally and privately conceding quality of life. Haven't told nobody, but I'm making concessions. This morning, I finally got up and I said, okay, I'm gonna stretch, because that's a big part of what I remember when we used to do it in calisthenics and Little League football. I was like, what is this waste of time for? You get on, then can we play?
Right.
And but now you really do have to stretch. I got up this morning and I stretched and I decided to limp on down the steps and go to the bike. And I got on the bike, and the first thing that set in was sort of conceding ground and quiet failure. 3 minutes. Let's do 3. Maybe 5 minutes. Man, it seemed like a long time. But I was impressed that my knees were working and my legs were pedaling. And then all of a sudden I was getting a little winded. 10 minutes. Can I make it to 10? I made it to 10, made it to 15. I said, I'm pedaling right away. And I realized that in my mind, I had already conceded that things can't work with my knees until I get them replaced. But actually, I'm giving up territory. So I would say that that's something that you want to be aware of. One other thing, Tommy, that I'd say that Tommy and I, we don't like performing poorly.
No.
So both of us are in the West Golf Club. We got an event coming up on June the 7th and 8th, that weekend. Tommy and I can't wait to get there. But there was a time when we wasn't looking forward to getting there. It might just be public embarrassment, or we might not even show. So we've been getting these big numbers in the 90s. I thought at one point that I was just now a new 90s player.
Yep.
I've just arrived at 90, maybe 100,
Yep.
and I was an 80s and sometimes 70s player. And I was telling Tommy, I said, Tommy, the way, and I was telling him this philosophically, I didn't like it in reality, that my mindset in golf for many years was, when I shoot a good number, I'm getting better. if I shoot a bad number, my handicap is something I can play to. But I really didn't like shooting in bad numbers. But he and I were both shooting numbers that were bigger than what we wanted to shoot. And they publish everything so everybody can see them 90 scores that you got. You're at the bottom, you know, of the rung. And now Tommy and I have put in a little bit of extra work. Our scores are beginning to get better. But guess what? Our handicaps are high. So you couldn't find two happier guys for them bad scores. Now, what's the benefit of bad scores? As competitors, we never like bad scores in anything in life. And so there's almost a temptation to, you know, to hedge your bets and to not take bad scores. But bad scores, when that is who you are, see, the beauty of the golf handicap is anybody can compete against anybody philosophically because your handicap is who you are. And so you get strokes. If somebody's a scratch golfer, they're a 0 and you're 14, then you get 14 strokes. And so now that Tommy and I put in all those honest, ugly scores, now that our game is getting better and our swing is getting better, we're probably going to be at or below our handicap just in the nick of time, you know. So
I think that's encouraging, Eric, because a lot of things that we do in life, be it playing sports, golf, anything like that, or going to work, I believe that you and I and many of our community members, we want to not only succeed, but excel.
Right. And we want everybody to see that quietly.
Indeed. And we have our own historical biography.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what we used to be like and do 40 years ago.
That's right.
30 years ago. And then now, you know, 20 years ago, I remember 40 years ago. 10 years ago, I'm a different person now, but I remember 40 years ago. And then now today, we are different people with the same memory of what we was 40, 30, and 20 years ago.
Right.
But the good news is that when we are not thinking and working out of a deficit model, right? Meaning, oh, I've lost 30 years of my life from what I used to be. And we shift to a more progressive and positive thinking or growth mindset.
Growth mindset, love that.
Then it becomes, here's where I am now. What tools do I have? What learnings, what wisdom do I have now that I can apply that will be even better than my past physical attributes? Because in the past, I was running off of pure physical ability, talent,
raw strength,
and didn't know that would wane,
right?
Because I was young and dumb,
right?
But my mind was saying, I'm a computer. You're informing me. You're putting more in me. I'm getting stronger. My mind said I'm getting stronger. My body said at the age of 25, we start to decline. You don't know it. You've hit your peak.
Right.
You've stretched it to 30 years of age, but look, 15 years of age, 20, 25, now 30, all that jumping on the concrete, wait for it, right? Body said, just keep jumping around.
Right.
Concrete said, I'm going to keep catching you. I'm not going to give. You're just going to land on me and you're going to feel it, right? And then 50 years of age, 55, 60, your body says, yeah, I remember. Your mind says, let's pivot. So that's what we have to do. Oftentimes, we have to apply different skills, experiences, and learning that we learn in the workforce, growing professionally, and make sure that's relevant in our personal and community work in life.
And I'll tell you, there's a bigger lesson even than what Tommy is saying to you about our choices and our relationships. In other words, when you're a young person, especially a man, you are utilizing your eyes to make determinations around value in women, you know, if that's your orientation. And we're saying to you, be careful not to just allow yourself to make decisions based upon things that are temporal, because eventually all of us are going to age. And what you want is somebody that has the right character. And so even though physically we have diminished some since we were 20 something, mentally. Our character can keep growing. Our knowledge can keep growing. And you want to be focused on the things that matter most. You don't want to give up on the physical yourself. Keep yourself in great shape as long as you can, because it's good for your health. And it increases the quality of life, not simply for you, but so that you can be available to others who want to take advantage of your quality of life to watch grandkids and everything else, Tommy. And I just say that we have to be careful to not start packing up too quickly.
Yeah.
So there's two concepts. Don't pack up too quickly. Keep working and growing, but also play for the long game. Don't look at the things that are meaningless, like how beautiful you are, how attractive you are. Those aren't the things that ultimately matter.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. We're with you, community. When you probably just said that, hey, that's easier said than done. No, Eric is speaking what we are trying to do as well.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? So this is not a lecture. You know us. We're not lecturing. We're learning and adjusting. And the blessing about this conversation is that we have each other as a sounding board,
right,
to say you're on the path or adjust, right. Hey, Eric, I'm going down this path and I'm getting this bad result. I'm getting this bad result. I'm getting this bad result. Tommy, adjust, right? And then I make the adjustment.
Right. Last point, and then we're going to go on to our top 7 corporate DEI challenges and their personal connection. I want to just share, Tommy, that I don't think that I consciously imagined getting to this place with my children, that they are adults, and I can even talk to my sons about their relationships with women. Now, as I grew up, my father really kind of pushed us almost dysfunctionally to be womanizers. My father was a great man. I loved him in many ways, but one of the things that he did that wasn't helpful is he started pushing me towards, women and having sex with women. I like sports more than I did women when I was growing up, but my father sort of set me on that path. I didn't do that to my boys. So I'm grateful for that. That I told him, look, wait as long as you can. If you wait till you're married, you don't want to mess up the greatest thing in life by just finding anybody out there that you can lie with. But I am now to a place where I was having a conversation with one of my boys about girls and, attractive girls and getting with them and things like that. And it was a whole nother space for conversation to happen. And he was able to tell me how his mindset has been and how he's already beginning to realize that I don't think I really want to do that. I was on that for a minute, if you're just going to be a freak, whatever, I'll sit back and just roll with this. But when you see their values and you can have conversations with them about real life where they trust you, that I no longer have to hide that from you as my father, but I can talk to you about it in responsible ways. Tommy, I'm just grateful for that, man. So stay tuned if you're not already there.
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. Thank you for sharing that. That's a blessing to be able to engage in a conversation with your child, right, by way of birth. But that's an adult,
right,
who has discernment, who has their own ideals,
mm-hmm.
and who have maybe even taken bits and pieces of what you're offering,
mm-hmm.
the ones that are valuable for them.
Right.
Don't say, okay, I'm going to apply that. But the other, not so much. Dad, that was you. Mom, that was you.
Right.
Me, right?
Right.
So literally, the lessons that we learn from our father that are valuable, that's one kind of hiking stick.
Mm-hmm.
What we learn from our mother, if we have both, that's the other. But we are having those hiking sticks as support as we are making our own way.
That's right.
Making our own way.
Right.
And so that's a great opportunity to have the conversation.
Right. Well, we're going to bring you into this conversation. Tommy and I, as you know, are both management consultants who specialize in a number of areas, emotional intelligence, diversity, equity, inclusion, leadership development, creating a sense of belonging. Those are all spaces that Tommy and I work in. We're lifelong learners. And so anything that has to do with increasing individual and organizational effectiveness, then Tommy and I, we work in those spaces. So we were looking at sort of the top 7, corporate DEI challenges or things that people need to be looking at. And one of them was leadership, commitment, and influence. I can tell you that my best clients that I've had over the years have been people where the senior executives were committed, were engaged and committed to creating people-centered workplaces that were diverse, which meant, they valued people's uniqueness. They were equitable. In other words, they wanted to be inclusive of your talent, skill, ability, potential. And when you brought something meaningful to the workplace, then you were equitably recognized and rewarded. And so a leadership commitment and influence makes that go a long way. Tom, anything you want to say about that? And then let's pivot to how that relates to us personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And the leadership commitment and influence, I think, is important. I've experienced where leaders in the DEI space, be it a corporate, nonprofit, educational space, they too are on their own professional journeys. So once that leader or leaders really embrace and see value in diversity, differences, the uniqueness that may drive profit margin, that may drive productivity, then it's going to drive everything. Once they see that uniqueness that can really take them, the next step, they have value. With equity, equity is, in turn, you can take a look at pay equity.
Mm-hmm.
And when the leaders see that there is pay disparity,
right,
those who are at the very low bottom rungs being subjugated to that inequity, sometimes they leave.
Right.
So from a business perspective, a leader may say some sort of pay equity makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Same job, same pay rate for whatever who the person is. And then that leader who really understands that inclusion is involving their workforce as well as their vendors, clients, customers. It's including, because if the leader says our company provides a service, but if the client says we don't want to include you in any decision making,
right,
then outside of the leader, a decision can be made to exclude them,
right,
to cancel them. So a leader, I think, in influence is great because it makes sense from a business perspective through and through.
Right. And so now when Tommy and I took these 7 and we began to pivot them to personal, so how does that link to us personally? Then, if you look at, it says, whether in corporations, families, or community groups are committed to and actively promoting inclusivity. So that's what it says. Ensuring leaders, whether in corporations, families, or community groups, are committed to and actively promoting inclusivity. Now, when we think about our families, that's when it starts breaking down a little bit.
Yes, it does.
I mean, I just thought about, we've got one of our children now is vegan. So when you're a family that's ordering out far more than you need to, Tommy, you're going to, Cheesecake Factory, Firebirds, and you're getting the same things, or Olive Garden, getting a family meal. But when you got somebody that's vegan, now you have to think about what it is that they don't eat. And so we just got so comfortable ordering quickly for the dominant culture in our family when we had to make changes, to accommodate somebody who was now eating differently. We both didn't do it well and weren't really as open or interested in it, Tommy. And I just look at that and say, wow, man, what a lesson. We're trying to tell companies to be open to being inclusive, but as soon as it inconveniences us personally, then it's also difficult.
It's very difficult. I would say that for my family and many other families with regards to inclusivity, growing up, we had regular family reunions that our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents were all connected. And then my generation, maybe a few generations following, the act of trying to include the family became less and less, the act or the behavior. In other words, I have family members right now that I haven't seen in years, and they live within a 10 or 15-mile radius of my own home. They're in the
Right.
same city. And so when we talk about promoting inclusivity, I think that from a personal or family perspective, it takes effort to do. Now, with that being said, I know that there was a moment in our life called the COVID pandemic, and it separated us because we had to be literally separated.
Right.
And I learned within my family and other families that folks got all antsy and started reaching out to family members through Facebook, through LinkedIn, through telephone, through text, through email, and saying, "Hey, I haven't talked to you in 15 years." And I think it was the event that really surfaced the need to be inclusive. But without that event, folks would have been kind of par for the course and might not have been as intentional. And so, not only from the corporate side, but personally, it's intentionality to be inclusive.
Right. And I'll tell you, the thing about that is that if I wasn't married, I'm actually, even though I'm an extrovert, Tommy, there's a lot of me that's a loner. And I like my alone time. When I'm here at the office and nobody else is here, Tommy, sometimes I feel like, ooh, I feel good, man. Because Wendell and I were laughing about that we can entertain ourselves. Yeah. And I'll tell you that inclusion is something that you have to be intentional about. This is what Lydia's saying to us.
That's something that the more we understand that the key on every aspect is inclusion, and to put value on people, the more our world will progress.
Right.
I agree with that.
Right.
I agree. Again, even with this podcast, Eric, this podcast is on the platform. Many can see us for those who can. Many can hear us for those who can. We also, in the past, have had this same podcast simply via audio. Mm-hmm. It was on the radio. So if we wanted to be inclusive, not only to our family, but to others, and we want the conversation to be heard and experienced and joined in by others, what are we doing to ensure that they can appreciate it?
Right.
Because, maybe I don't have time to sit down and watch and listen to the show. But if there's another way that I can just listen, sure, let's do it. So this thing, leadership, commitment, and influence, right? Commitment to and actively promoting inclusivity.
Right. And so even as Tommy talked there, we could reconfigure our show so that you had diverse conversation bites, so that after each week we could have a 10-minute version, that just has Lydia, take note. And the thing is, I would say that inclusion is not always necessary, but it is something to consider. And right now we are challenging ourselves. When Tommy and I first looked at these top 7, we said we're very familiar with these within corporations because we do it all the time. But when we start having to ask ourselves, how are we doing personally, it was a challenge. Cultural integration and transformation, integrating DEI into the core culture of organizations, communities, and families, making it a fundamental part of values and practices. Tom.
On corporate boards, on not only board of trustees, but literally walls. You go into any organization, nonprofit, academic, they typically have these values plastered on the wall, 7, 8, 9, 10 values. And a small group of think tank has come together over a 3-month period to land on these 7 values. Mm-hmm. That's one thing, Eric. Mm-hmm. Then there's another thing where the human beings within that organization actually value the same things that are on that wall. And so when I don't really value what that is, or I don't see that value showing up.
That's right.
Then there's a disconnect
all the time. Absolutely, Tommy.
So we have to have, when we talk about cultural integration, it's marrying the organization's values with the individual or the human being's values, and giving some flexibility where on the wall there's 7, but there are more, right? There's 10, 20, 30, 40 more values that we can kind of baked into the 7. So we have to integrate DEI not only from a theoretical on the wall perspective, but also in practical, where we're actually internalizing and we're thinking and behaving in the ways of those values.
Right.
That's one of the things I'm thinking about.
And so let me take it to the personal level in this way, that when our children were young, as parents, we had a lot of philosophies, a lot of principles, a lot of values that we put forth. Here's how we operate. Here's what we do. Here's how we operate. We've literally put our values on the wall like corporations. And you and I have said for decades that so many employees go underneath those banners, and those banners almost become spears. Because if we've got this up on a wall and my supervisor is not living out that, it makes that a joke. In your own lives, community, we're going to ask you, what are the values that you say that you stand on? And then how good a job are you doing at living out those values? I'll give you one that I'm beginning to practice right now. As parents, you give yourself nothing but get out of jail free cards.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing for a lifetime, Tommy. If I make a mistake, I don't have to own it. Get out of jail free. And so now with my middle son, I finally am now verbalizing when I made a wrong judgment of him. I assumed that he did something that he didn't do. And so now I'm telling him every time I do that, I'm sending you a cash app. $25, $20. Because that's not who I want to be. And he just looked at me like, huh? Well, whatever, Dad. You want to do that, go ahead. I'm okay if you feel better. But I'm going to tell you, I want to do that because in my mind, I was more convinced than my mouth said. Now, I've learned over the years not to just be saying a lot, but it doesn't matter if my mouth said it, if my brain thought it and was convinced that it was true and it wasn't. That's something that's against my values. And so I'm now trying to say, let me take a physical act in this world to say to you that I was wrong and to remind me that that's not something that I want to do. And then the last part of this thing, it says cultural integration and transformation. Tommy, I'm going to put that word out there. Transformation. We know it's a big word in corporate America. We know it's probably an overused word. We've very seldom seen people that were really committed to transforming their cultures. But then we say it almost smugly. You need to focus on transformation. Okay. When is the last time I visited with that word? In my own self, in my own leadership style within my family. How committed am I? What would it look like if the Ellis family went through transformation, significant cultural, value-centered transformation? Now, I'm going to put that out there because it's got to linger in the atmosphere for a while, Tommy. But I'd suggest to you that there's some challenge in there for the Ellis family.
I would say challenge not only Ellis family, but most families that are wanting to acknowledge, reflect, and examine the transformation. Because there are people, and not taking ourselves out of the people equation, there are people in families, Eric, that we just live life, and at the end of a longer period, then we look back and say, I've changed. So we live life for 30 years, 40 years as a family. The kids are born, and then now they're in their 20s, in their late 20s, in their early 30s, and we say, oh, we're different. Yes, you are different, but transformation is actually before the change.
Right.
Not after, it's not a reflection. So when you're talking about being transformative, it's saying, what's our benchmark here now? Where are we now? And where would we like to be? And what's the work that we have to do to get there? It's not getting to the end and looking back and saying, I'm changed.
Right.
Yeah, you changed.
That was an unintentional change.
Unintentional outcome.
Time passed.
Time passed. Right? So that's your measurement. The time's going to pass. Great, but that's all of us. Time is going to pass. Question is, were you intentional about that change And did you achieve the change that you were intentional about?
Now I'm going to say that I feel like conversations that I'm having with God when I'm praying about something, and God is saying, you haven't even asked me about that door that you standing in front of. Now, what about that door? You've been praying to me about all kind of other little ancillary things. That right there that you're standing in front of, you haven't even decided to ask me for help. And so my question to you, community, this morning is, have you even asked the question within your family, what would transformation look like, and what areas would be the most important to your family that you transform in? And Tommy, so I say it, you and I say these things, man, and community, I hope you know that we're not just saying this to you. These are heavy questions that we oftentimes haven't even fully asked ourselves.
Yeah, you're right.
And what we're saying is that we're juxtaposing our personal lives with our corporate principles and philosophies. And we're saying that we are so certain and so confident that corporations need to be bought into this because it makes them better. What we're saying is that we believe that as individuals, if we buy into these things, it makes us and our families better. And so sometimes we make some of the changes that we know of. That's good, but oftentimes, Tommy, we're not asking the question, why not?
Yeah, it's about alignment, Eric, what we're doing. We're trying to align the many different facets of our existence, such that we are the same person in every aspect.
Right.
And so, for example, the medical doctor or the nurse who has been trained to do that profession, they may go to work every day exhibiting that skill and talent.
Right.
In fact, Eric, they may get paid to do that. That's their professional job. If said person were at the baseball game, the soccer game, and there was a person that needed medical attention, I would bank my home that person, medical doctor, nurse, who was in proximity of the person who had a need, will come to their assistance.
Right.
So it's no longer, this is my job, I'm getting paid for it.
Right.
It's now, this is who I am.
Right.
The conversation we're having here around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the challenges between corporate and personal community, it's not just our job.
Right.
It's who we are, and we're trying to become more aligned with ensuring that who we are as a person shows up to where we are in the community and how we show up with our clients in the corporate space.
Right. And so opportunity, the third one, the third sort of corporate DEI challenge and opportunity is overcoming resistance to change, defined as addressing and mitigating resistance within corporations, personal relationships, and community settings to foster an environment open to DEI initiatives, or in the family, being open to other people's needs and or desires. How are we doing, Tommy, at overcoming resistance to change? Are there places in your life that you see yourself as being a little more resistant to change? And is it something that sort of is in the backdrop of our brain?
Yeah, Eric, I mean, real simple answer for me. I do not resist change when the change makes me feel comfortable. When the change is what I want. Really.
That's right.
When the change makes me feel good,
right,
and it's actually like a confirmation bias, I change quickly. I can stop doing things when I did not want to do them, and now I'm given the option not to do them. I say, I'll change. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
Hey, do you want to take out the trash today? Well, I don't. Well, going forward, I'll take out the trash. That's what the other person says. And I'm like, oh, that's a good change.
Right.
I'm on board.
I'm on board with that change.
Yeah, because it makes me feel comfortable. It's in my wheelhouse. the change is difficult and I resist it, particularly when I know I need to make the change. I'm told I need to make the change, but I don't necessarily know how to make the change. That's when I resist. I know it, I've been told it, but I don't know how. And so the learning is in the how, right? I need to make a change, but I just simply don't know how. I don't have the skill set. I don't have the ability. I don't even have the mindset. So I got to change all of those things to get to the change that I need and you want. You know what? I resist. And that resistance can be, aggressive. It can be passive. It can be passive aggressive. It can be all kinds of ways, all the above. Because I'm arms crossed with, and then pride and ego kicks in with you should know how to make that change. You teach it, you've done it. And I'm like, but I don't know how.
Know it, told it, don't know how. I would say that all of those can adjust. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we've been told. Sometimes it's been screamed to us. Sometimes we haven't been told because people are just afraid to tell us. So all of those are up for grab. Know it, told it, don't know how. That's an educational, informational. Know it, screamed it. Okay, now I'm just resisting the screaming.
Yes.
So now if you bring it to me the wrong way, now you're not telling, you yelling at me. And so now there's other things. Yeah, I know that's true, but I don't even want to deal with it because of the way that you brought it to me. Told it, don't know how. Sometimes I'm selfishly just wanting to maintain my current behavior. So I know it. I've been told it. God has actually said it to me, but I want to comfortably maintain the status quo. Now, there's a lot of places in our lives that we live there for a long time. And what Tommy said earlier was that if I understood more of its value to me, then I would probably be more open and would more quickly embrace the change. Now, we know that within corporations, don't we?
Yeah.
That at what I saw in some of the biggest companies that I work with is that senior level leadership wasn't listening to the people that were closest to the job, closest to the customer. And when they weren't listening to them, they made bad decisions that cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, because they didn't listen to the people and make the appropriate changes. Tommy, I would suggest to you that some of the changes that our family members desire from us would really sort of in magnified ways positively impact the overall quality of life. I don't know if we've seen that clearly enough, because if we saw it truly clearly, we'd probably gravitate to it and resist the change less.
Yeah, that's a great point, Eric. And as you were speaking, I'm thinking very quickly that sometimes in acknowledging a change that has happened or a change that needs to happen, there's some reflection on possibly the mistakes or errors that we've made.
Right.
Because we have lived or worked to a certain point, and then someone tells us or screams at us, you need to make a change.
Right.
And then we reflect back like, I've been doing this for X amount of years.
Right.
And you're telling me this now? When did I start making this mistake?
Right.
And why couldn't I have corrected it? So we talk about golfing adjustments. I've been golfing for years.
Right.
I'm still making the same mistakes. I've made adjustments, got comfortable with that adjustment. That adjustment did not yield the result or the outcome that I wanted. So I made another adjustment. I'm making constant adjustments. And now I'm at a point, and that's just the analogy there, when I'm just talking about with resistance to change, that now we can be like, for real, what good would the change be? What good is the change?
Right.
Is it really good? My short answer is yes, it is. Because I'm not going to fall into the bucket of Well, diversity, equity, inclusion, we changed some things 4, 5, or 6, 10 years ago, and nothing has changed.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, both from a corporate, professional side, and personal, did you sustain that change? Did you create a habit, a core value from that change?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it a check the box, literally, I'm making the change to a point that where I can be comfortable again. Okay, change, uncomfortable, 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 comfortable. I'm going to stop changing.
Right.
I'm going to stop evolving.
Right.
And all of that happened in 3 months.
Right.
Right. So at 3 months, I've changed, but then I didn't set into my value, my behavior, and then I revert back to the status quo, my past negative, non-productive, maladaptive behavior and mindset. So resistance, overcoming that comfort of mediocrity. I love what you said. Overcoming the comfort of being average.
Right.
It takes exceptional work.
Right.
To be not exceptional, just to be better than good.
Right. And there's a risk of failure, and probably a certainty of failure out the gates.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you can't get better at something before being bad and maybe worse for a minute. Yeah. So that's why we don't really power through chip shots, because we're envisioning hitting it thin and it flying. So whatever you envision, oftentimes what you're going to get. So if you're so afraid of the shot, then when you take the shot, you get the outcome that you were expecting and anticipating. And so the message to you was reinforcing and confirming. Don't try new stuff.
Yeah.
Because you're going to fail at it. I would say the other thing in our lives is that, number one, we feel like we have to take care of ourselves. So whatever, there's some dysfunctional things that we do because I'm going to take care of me. I have the freedom to do that. Nobody else is taking care of me but me, so I'm going to do that. The other thing that I would say, Tommy, is that we oftentimes may not have models of success. We don't have a picture of what success looks like. And so I remember that when I was, on the chip shot, I take it back halfway and then go through. And I finally learned how to do it, but then it still was going. I didn't know that you had to go further and finish the swing. Because I had no real plan, I was going to constantly be failing, because all I had was a picture of failure, fear, and no real understanding of what success looked like. So even when I hit it fine, it didn't go far enough because I got to actually hit it for more than that so it goes far enough. So we have to have in our personal lives models of success, people that we can look at, that we can speak to, that said, when you do this, that's when it starts getting better. And what I have found is humility makes things get better. Sometimes owning my mistakes make things get better. As I begin to, when Judy and I are talking and she's saying some things and my ADHD has got me button in, I'm now saying, Judy, hey, this is what you told me that was really helpful. I'm hearing what you're saying now. I'll jump out of an argument to say, I'm seeing, and it kind of throws her a little bit like, what?
Yeah.
We're not arguing. You actually are on my side with it. I saw that somewhere, and I finally got a picture of what doing it right looks like. Once we get there, I think that we stop resisting change.
We have a couple more.
Yeah, let's look at the next one. Measuring progress and impact. Developing effective metrics to assess the progress. It's getting chilly in here. Developing effective metrics to assess the progress and impact of DEI efforts, both in the workplace setting and in personal and community interactions. So again, DEI for us personally refers to diversity. Everybody that's unique in your family. Every person has their own unique ways. What are we doing to accommodate that? Everybody wants to be treated fairly. And then everybody wants their voices to be heard, to be included in family outings, the perspective, that they want their perspectives considered. And so as I look at measuring progress and the impact, I can give you a lecture all day long about what that looks like in corporations. But when I start looking at that in terms of my family, what metrics have I put together? And I can tell you that I have some, but they're secret. They're a secret to the family. At times, I think they're a secret to me too. It's a secret I'm keeping. I do have metrics, but I'm just keeping it to myself. That's called no metrics at all. Nothing intentional about that. I know there's a bar out there. It keeps moving, Tommy. And I'm keeping secrets. So I would say to you, and I'm going to ask you, if you're a man out there in a relationship with somebody, have you ever asked, what are the metrics of a successful relationship? What is it that they're looking for you to achieve? What would success look like? And what are the major dashboards, if you will, in your life that you can literally keep metrics on? I'm going to promise you this. Make you a promise, and I'm saying it in this room, it's bouncing back off the walls right to me, that if you put together some real metrics in your relationship around how much time we spend together, how we utilize money, our goals around money, how we communicate to each other, when we go out, how often we need to go out. If you put metrics together on all of those things, it might seem kind of chilly and not warm, but I promise you, there's a book that talks about anybody can love anyone who does for them the things that they want, they most want done. Mm-hmm. That's about metrics. Yeah. That's about understanding. And I would say to you that for probably, I've been married over 30 years. For 20 of them years, I wanted to go old school with the gift. I wanted to observe her, watch what she's doing, listen to what she says, and then go get a bad gift. I mean, every time I was doing that, I was listening good, Then finally, after 20-something years, she told me the gifts that she wanted. Well, I got those, and now she's happy. Jewelry, certificates for jewelry, now she's happy. Metric. I could have asked that a long time ago and been winning at this one, but I was trying to figure it all out by myself. I'm saying that if you look at your family situation with your children, with your significant other, you can put together some metrics that would help us to get greater positive impact in our relationships.
Yeah, I would say, Eric, that again, I'm listening to you, and just as always, the conversation is just triggering so many things that in my life that I would like to do better and that I am doing well. One of the things that I think that I'm doing well, particularly over the last 5 to 7 years, where I have friends that I have befriended and they have befriended me. Many of them, almost all of them, are married, right? And so what I've done is I've surrounded myself with men and women who are married, going through all with that marriage has. Some have children, some do not. Some have grandchildren, some do not. Male, female, etc. But even the two married couples, my friends, have different mindsets and experiences. Mm-hmm. They don't always agree.
Right.
So my metric for me selfishly with them to make me better for my family is when I invite my friends over to my home, it is intentional. It's to laugh, it's to fellowship, it's to get a different perspective. Mm. Sometimes my wife shares a perspective that everyone agrees with, and I don't agree with it. Now I know I'm outball. I'm outball, right? Because I was resisting the change,
right?
And everyone else saying, "Tommy, just change," and I'm like, "I know you're right about it," and she's like, "Thank goodness,"
right?
On the other side is my wife and I, we've been in agreement with something, and socializing a topic. It goes out into our friend circles, in our home or whatever, and we got different answers coming back. So the metric that comes back is, the metric is maybe mindset. What's our thinking about a particular topic? Mm-hmm. It can be finances, it can be, health, it could be all these things. And when the differences come back, I learn that there are options. because my wife and I may be in group think. And then
Right.
when we socialize it, we come back, no, there's other ways, right? There's better and less expensive healthcare benefits.
Mhm.
Oh, there is.
Mhm.
We've just been going with this.
Right.
Different insurance, right? Here's what where I'm putting my money, all that good stuff. And 20 years ago, I wasn't thinking about that at all.
Mhm.
So I was intentionally saying, I would like to have a circle of friends as a metric that will bring value and benefit to me, and hopefully I to them. And I'm at a place right now that my friend group, and I do have new friends over the last 5 or 6 years. A few. And some people say, I don't need new friends. For me, this was intentional. It was a friend or friends that were gifted to me.
Right. Right.
So I didn't have a decision to
Mhm.
make if you're going to be a friend or not.
Right.
Some of them we were doing work together, and God said, that's going to be your friend.
Mhm.
Those two, I'm putting them in your life for a reason. And the metric was, I need to grow. My family needs to grow. And I'm going to allow God to give me the resources such that I can grow. And in that growth, to close, is when I am resistant to change, I'm also excited because of the growth opportunity. I may not like the process,
Right.
but I'm now starting to measure my progress, and the impact is bigger than I ever could have thought.
That's powerful, Tommy. And so that's going to wrap us up for this week. I would say the thing you never want to hear from your significant other, I used to hear this from Judy years ago, is treat me like a client. You don't want to hear that. In other words, when you put on your client voice, that's that sweet voice, that understanding voice, that empathic listening voice. What Tommy and I are saying to you all today is we're taking our profession and saying that we want to make sure that we're not better servants to our customers than we are to the folks that we love most. And we're saying that to you, community, this morning, that as you think about diversity conversations, it really will ultimately all sort of come back to the conversations that we're having with ourselves that will enable us to be the best servant in this world that we can to others. And Tommy and I are grateful that because you all exist, you are compelling us to put that mirror up in front of us to get better as well. Thank you for your participation. Tommy, last word.
Last words again, thank you again for joining us for another installment of Diversity Conversations. We'll see you next week. We'll hear from you next week. Hopefully we'll have our 800 number up and ready. Get ready to call in from around the world. We want to hear you and the diversity conversation that you have to offer. Until the next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other.
Bye now.